No.
Call to order in planning commission meeting.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
February 26, 2025.
Thank you.
Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then we'll go back to roll call, Lisa.
Amanda Stevens. Here. Ronald Macy. Here. Bill Reardon.
Here.
Bob Wilkinson.
Here.
And Patty Matthews is absent.
Public comments, 3-minute limit. And none. Acceptance of the agenda. I would like to move the Tricia up front. She would get that taken care of right away, so she wouldn't have to stay. She has someplace to go on the housing. You want to do this right off the bat?
If that's what you guys like, I'm fine with whatever.
Yeah, is that your call?
That's fine, yeah. Make a motion, we amend the agenda to allow Tricia to move to the front.
Other than that, I don't see anything else wrong with it. That was the second move. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No, carried. Tricia,
I'm just standing here,
it's fine.
okay. So I'm gonna go, our mission statement is the Munising Housing Commission is dedicated to excellence in providing quality, affordable, and safe housing to eligible persons consistent with community needs. We foster effective and creative partnerships to maximize opportunities that improve the economic and personal well-being of the people we serve. Our agency conducts its business efficiently, professionally, and ethically without discrimination. So we have, we administer 2 programs. One is our public housing, and then our other is our Housing Choice Voucher Program. Our public housing, it's federally funded program, providing affordable rental housing for eligible low-income families, elderly individuals, and persons with disabilities. We own 74 public housing units consisting of 58 one-bedroom, 6 two-bedrooms, and 12 three-bedroom units. The eligibility requirements, it's income limits, it's to qualify, a family of 1 would need to fall under the 80% of the median income, which is $44,600. And the rent is 30% of their income with a cap, a flat rent, and a minimum of $50. So if you're not working, it's $50. We have an application process, and we do have a waiting list, and I was just gonna mention, if you guys wanna know, we have 21 people on our 1-bedroom waiting list. We have 5 on our 2-bedroom and 3 on our 3, which is really low for us. We usually run about 40 to 60 people on our waiting list. So something's shifted that we've noticed. Our Housing Choice Voucher Program is, we have 28 vouchers that can be used in the Alger County area, and that's just where you go through a private landlord. They pay 30% of their income to the landlord, and we pay the landlord the 70%. The income eligibility is a little bit lower for the Section 8. You have to fall below the 50% of the median income to be able to get a voucher. Our waiting list for our voucher program is currently closed. There's just not enough funding right now. And I haven't closed, I've been there for 16, 17 years, and this is the first time we've closed it, and that's just because the Detroit field office told us to close it as the funding's pretty low right now. So hopefully we'll see that change towards the middle of the year. Let's see what else. I think that's it. Anybody's got any questions?
Any questions, Tricia?
I have a question. How many are in Section 8 now, do you know?
16. We have 16 leased.
And have they been long-term, do you know, or there's some new ones, or?
Nope, they're long-term, and quite frankly, so we also manage Rapid River Housing Commission, and we do a private apartment complex here, which has 24 units. And I want to say 8 of those are Section 8 voucher holders. And if we didn't manage it, I don't know if we would have those vouchers being in use, because we have seen a lack of landlord participation.
Tricia, what facilities do you manage in Munising?
So it's the West End, Bayview, there's where our 4 2-bedroom units are. Then we have Lakeshore Manor, which is down on the lake. We have 58 units there. And then we have Hillside, which is our 3 bedrooms. We have 12 3-bedrooms over by Ron's Auto Body, up of 28 there. And then we manage Grandview on the side as well.
How many are at Bay?
4.
And that's the newest of the units, correct?
Bayview?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. It was built in 1974. And we don't receive any state funding, all our funding is strictly federal.
So that's frozen right now?
No, not for our programs, I don't know. And I do know that we have certain guidelines, we have, I wanna say 8 months of reserves, so if the government were to shut down, we could go for 8 months easily.
I don't have anything.
Well, let's move on to approval of the minutes dated January 16th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd.
Yes, she knows.
Okay, 22nd.
It's one on there, sorry.
We get a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. None of the zoning ordinance.
You don't have
all
to sit here and go through this.
Okay.
During Saturday, the downtown district as an accessory use. I wasn't here last month, and evidently you presented this, and
Yes.
I guess I really wasn't aware that it wasn't permitted. It,
We did present it, and then we were looking at working with Lisa over there at the idea that maybe if it was a retail space, we could do that or something like that, but come to find out that that wasn't a possibility, according to some emails I received, so that's why we're back here again. Try to add
Oh, we
in,
also, yeah, you also wanted
Oh,
some drawings, a
Mhm.
map,
which we
which we have.
did. Did you get a copy of that map? I thought I dropped them off here, but I do have that as well. Just to kind of show where it would go on our property. I don't know if you guys can see them. They just show the location in that white area is the grassy area over between us and this good stitch. And then the grayed out area is where the parking lot is, and then it kind of shows the distances between the building and where the semi-permanent greenhouse structure would be. Is that what the word is? Semi-permanent?
Mhm.
Did you have
Is it-
questions? Sorry.
Sorry. Is this,
So the road, the main walkway is here.
Got
This
it.
side over here is where the break wall is. Then it goes down to the alley, so the wall goes, it's 15 feet, I think, 10, 15 feet high right there, before it goes down to the alley level.
so the parking lot portion that you show here is just a very small sliver of the total parking lot.
Yeah.
The parking lot does a L shape
Yeah,
and goes around the side of the building.
right. So this is just the side and then the
That's
rest
the
of it is
side.
down here?
Right,
Okay, got it.
yep, and that'd be the side there, and we would use that as, parking areas for that. Most of the time in the summer, that is pretty, or most of the year, that's just a place where we put snow. And, stays fairly empty for the most part.
What are the dimensions of your greenhouse? Any idea?
30 by 60.
Yep.
Is that different than this one?
So,
It shows, so there's two different ones there, there's
Oh,
one
the same, okay.
Oh, no, they're
that shows, this one just shows a little bit further over, showing the distance from the building to the greenhouse, and then that one shows the grass area where the greenhouse is at. Sorry, I only have the one copy,
No,
should have made more.
So to allow for the use, before we get to the site plan review aspect, in our review, the easiest way to do this would be to add the current definition and use of garden centers / greenhouse as an accessory use inside of the downtown district. So front page of the combined use table, what would be the second group, you will see gardens / greenhouse. It's a conditional land use in the lakefront commercial and commercial district, but not the downtown. That would make it a primary use on the property. The primary use on this property specifically is gonna be the retail hardware store. And so that's why the addition of it as a accessory use, which then we flip to the back of the combined use page and go to the very bottom under accessory, and garden center / greenhouse as an accessory use, and then in the downtown district. And then we have three different ways, if the planning commission would like to move on that, there's three different ways to adhere to the permitting and the review. That's gonna be the special land use permit, which is gonna be the tightest review possible done by the planning commission itself. The conditional land use, which is a little bit more of a relaxed review, still being done by the planning commission, or putting it as a permitted accessory use in the downtown district, which allows an administrative review and approval. And then inside of the packet, we also included the considerations for a garden center greenhouse. Kind of goes over, site layout requirements, walls, things like that. So, just to kind of give you an idea of what that definition would be. If there's any questions on that, we'll take those as well.
So even if we add that to accessories, then they still fall under the ordinance itself, or this, zoning ordinance itself.
Unless you guys would like to change that too. And that's only for the garden center aspect. The greenhouse is not defined inside of the conditional use or section of the ordinance.
So we could actually just add that as an accessory.
Yeah, you can add, it's within your purview to make the recommendation to the city commission to add it as an accessory use, and then the zoning ordinance to allow for it. And so the decisions this evening would be whether or not to add it as an accessory use in the downtown district, and if so, what type of review would you like to have for that accessory use, that SLU, the CPU, or the permitted, which is the administrative review?
Are we talking about this opening at the moment? Yeah, okay. While we're allowing it in the downtown district, does it make sense to allow it in the commercial district as well? Just if we're opening it up, I feel like, open it up.
It's conditional in the commercial at this time, right?
It's conditional for a primary use. So that's to say, the Pats, for instance, would not be able to use it. However, the empty lot next to Pats, that could be a primary use on that empty lot.
Right.
Right.
And if you guys feel as though that it may fit in other districts as well, this would be the time to add it to those districts too.
Right.
What would be the most expeditious way to do this without having oversight from 15 different people?
Well, so to make it as easy as possible, hypothetically, for a future applicant, an accessory use as a permitted accessory use in the district would most likely be the easiest, because an individual like the Denmans can then make a site plan review application to us. Because it's a permitted accessory use, we can review it administratively. They're still gonna have to follow the setbacks, and there's gonna be, it's not like it's a carte blanche. There's still gonna be a site plan review aspect of it. We'll make sure that there is there's a primary use, that's, the principal use on the parcel, and this would be a secondary use, making it that accessory qualifying for that, and then review the site layout and all the dimensions and everything, and make sure it kind of, meets like the knee walls and the storage, items as in the definition. But that would be the quickest way for an applicant to get it passed through the city.
Are there design guidelines built into the permitted accessory use, or materials? I forget who mentioned it the last time we reviewed that they didn't want it to be like a plastic kind of thing that would break. I don't know if there's like any
So-
design standards.
That is why we actually added the what we define as that garden center, because if there is gonna be a change where you do wanna add it, I don't think we have anything for a temporary, because I'm assuming it would be, temporary as in it's not gonna be there all winter.
Well,
It would be actually.
Okay.
we can have it because we were planning on being able to do events all year round. What it is, and it's a new type of greenhouse, so they have it's still a plastic type structure, but there is an air gap in between, and it's 2 layers. So it's able to withstand 5 to 6 years, and then you just replace it. So it kind of falls under that semi-permanent, but not seasonally, just as every 5 years you have to change it out.
So it's not like anchored into the ground,
Well, it is, but not.
not to the point where like you have cement posts or anything.
Right.
You can still take it out and move it if you have to. Would take a little work, but you could do it.
How would it be from like an uplift wind standpoint?
It's a Gothic type greenhouse, so it's supposed to be able to withstand.
But it's not anchored, you said, right?
It is anchored.
It's anchored, but it's not
It
like.
doesn't have footings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No
there's a
footings.
word, thank you.
Okay.
Lacking
I've been in the
word.
hardware store for a while. I know what footings are. I'm just kidding, I really don't. I just heard it.
If I'm not mistaken, essentially adding a matching facade that would match the principal structure, which would be basically a false facade on the one side, that should suffice our ordinance.
And that can be done.
A false facade, we don't regulate, it doesn't have to be true or false facades, but if it's of the material that would mimic the principal.
Would they have to go through DDA?
This kind of surprised me actually that this has happened, because I went to the greenhouse in the garden center at the old Snyder store. And
But I think that was in the commercial district.
it is commercial. Yeah,
And Snyder's was before the 23 ordinance.
right. And what I couldn't ever believe there was they let them actually shut off an entryway off of M28.
Yeah. They did.
They did for
You
years.
had to come in through
and
the
years.
parking lot, yeah.
People were just
Yeah.
wild.
Right. Yeah, that's
That they
right.
allowed it, and DOT didn't step up and do anything about it.
But this would have to be,
Snyder just did it.
it would have to be compliant with all the existing accessory setback bulk standards. So it would already, okay, so even if it was a permitted use, it would need to comply with all the setback requirements, so that wouldn't happen. Since it's not like a heavily designed structure, I mean, I think going through like special land use review would kind of be overkill. I don't know how anyone else feels, if it should be conditioned or permitted, if anyone wants to like actually review it, or just let it go.
My thought is to put it in as permitted, and it's probably not, like Devin says, probably gonna be the easiest way of doing it,
Yeah,
in the accessory.
that makes sense to me. I mean, you guys obviously want it to look nice, cause
Oh,
in
yeah.
front of your store, if it looks bad, it reflects more on
Yeah,
you guys,
not-
so I'm sure it'll be upkept
You know,
and.
we're like super bougie.
Right.
Well, I'd make a motion to move this to the, as a permitted use in the downtown district.
Permitted accessory use?
Accessory use.
Accessory.
And, can we also do it in the commercial district? The downtown and commercial while we're at it, or is anyone opposed to that?
As a accessory or as a retail?
Accessory.
Yeah, I wouldn't see a reason that wouldn't work. Just in the commercial, but not the Lakeshore commercial.
Correct, it's just commercial.
So you're saying you want this permanent accessory in the commercial district?
I just think if we're gonna do it, we should make
And
it.
downtown.
And
equitable.
downtown,
Yeah,
okay.
just like, anyone can do it, just so we're all on the same playing field.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to it, make it as a commercial and downtown district in the accessory as a primary use.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Now,
Opposed? Motion carried.
So we will get that to the city commission on March 5th.
fifth is it?
Yep. So we'll have technically our first reading, because it's essentially going to be just a text amendment. It'll be a first reading on the 5th. We'll publish for the public hearing, have the public hearing, and then the final approval on the 17th.
Your public hearing will be at the commission meeting, not,
On the 17th.
That's it.
Yep.
They're gonna give you time? Gonna have enough time?
Oh, yeah.
We're hoping spring, it's like, you know.
We have
Sure.
there's that snowbank out there.
Yeah.
Everyone
well, it's
told-
gonna be moved.
I told everyone, I said, yeah, so we're all
Get
getting
your shovels.
Trust me, I got snow in my front yard.
Yeah.
I know what it looks like.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
Disney master plan survey discussion. Okay.
Evening, everyone.
Yep, well, it's the first reading. First reading is kind of the introduction. where
First
there's-
item I have, I created a draft master plan survey. It's a pretty general survey, 15 questions. I think it was included in your packet. Does everybody have it all right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it's pretty basic. It starts out asking about the area you live in. I live in the city X amount of time. Ask what is your age, where are you employed? It asks about population growth and impressions about the environment of childcare in the community. If new businesses or services were able to locate in the city, what kinds would you like to see? And that's an open-ended question. It asks, what is your impression of business signage in the community? And then there's a strongly agree, agreed, neither agree or nor disagree, disagree, strongly disagree, type question that asks several statements about housing. Number 10 asks if the city should seek to maintain its small town character and protect the area from development. Well, that could significantly change the community, and that's a strongly agree to strongly disagree type question. Number 11 is a priority type question, high priority, not a priority, or no opinion. Thinking about infrastructure and land use, what are your priorities? And there's a variety of questions that are asked here. Number 12 is what issues do you think will have the greatest impact on the city and its residents? Check all that apply, and there's also a variety of questions here ranging from healthcare and social services, affordably priced housing, healthy and locally produced food, access to services, educational and social opportunities for children, skipping down, environmental contamination issues, natural hazards, energy costs, maintaining infrastructure, community safety, tourism, and leaves a checkbox for other, and that's an open-ended question. And then the last three questions are also open-ended questions, asking what do you love about Munising, and what changes would you like to see within Munising? And finally, is there anything else you would like to add that was not addressed by any of the questions? If you would also like to expand on any of your previous responses, please do so here. These are where we get the fun responses. So, I'm shooting for, I think we'll have the survey open for a month. And I'm shooting for at least 200 responses. That's about the ballpark that I get when I leave a survey open for a month. There's usually a big uptick at the very beginning, and then it tapers off after a week usually.
How is this distributed?
It's gonna be distributed online, so if the city posted it on its website and Facebook, and I don't know if you have a city LinkedIn, and
Yeah, so last time we found that putting a notice on the back for our water bills actually accounted for about half of the survey responses.
okay.
And then our social media push, I think, was second, but I think we pushed the link in an advertisement on the QPAD Facebook page, and that seems to, I mean, those two seem to be the most effective for us, and then getting community sharing. We have our chamber typically email it out too, to all their members in the chamber, and also DDA members. But we usually get a pretty good response rate, to say.
What's the platform that you use?
We use SurveyMonkey.
Okay, so you can definitely put in like one response per email.
Yeah.
And people can go in and change if they
Yeah,
want,
we-
or?
I'm not sure about if they can go in and alter their responses once they submit.
I think you can go in and change if you want, but I think that's a setting that you have to put in. I was just curious, because like if you're doing Google Forms, or like you can often go in and change.
Yeah, so if there's an option, I know that you can limit responses by IP address if you only wanted to have one from that
Yeah.
address. But if there are multiple people in the family, in the household, then we might want to rethink that and allow more responses from
Right.
one. But if we get something fishy where we see there's, 7 or more responses coming from the same address, and it's not the library, then we might be a little suspicious
Right.
and weed those out.
Did you say, will there be a paper form for like older residents if they?
Yes.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, so we encourage having that at the library and at City Hall.
Okay, and then I find this platform to be really useful for, I feel like, part of the goal for the master plan is to help people stay here and work here and find what they need to do so. And I think oftentimes a demographic that is missed is like people leaving high school that will probably go to college and leave and not come back, and how do we capture their voice? So I think it's interesting, unless anyone opposes, like the last survey I worked on, I had like the senior and junior high school like social studies or government or history class fill out the survey. So that way it's like, what would it take for you after graduation to stay and work in this community? Like, what do you need? What gaps can we fill? I don't know if anyone's opposed to like doing that, since he does have an under 19 option on here.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we can do that.
But only if you guys aren't opposed.
No, I'm not opposed to that.
Okay, cool.
And do you have to be a resident of Munising to fill this out?
No, according to the start of it, it says no. It's asking you where you're a resident of.
I would hope that if you live outside of Alger County, your kind of vote just gets thrown out. Like, why are you voting on our survey?
If you want me to trim them that way, we can certainly do that. I was thinking, you know, if the resident lived in Marquette County and was employed in Munising, then
Fair.
maybe we want that, but
Is there a, can you put that in there? Oh, you have
Yep,
that.
we have
Where is
that.
your employment located? Okay. Okay, so if you don't work here and you don't live here, I hope you're not filling out the survey, but those people should probably go away.
their opinion matters less.
I don't know, unless I'm being biased and you guys disagree. But, I don't know.
The Survey Monkey results, really, I mean, having the ability to sort by that first question really gives you a wealth of knowledge and allows you to kind of, not cherry pick per se, but allows you to focus on, you know, the community-centered needs and then other perceptions of the city of Munising from outside as well. Because, you know, I mean, you can tell, you know, more kayaking at Pictured Rocks, when that's, you know, repeated for over and over and over, you're typically seeing that as a non-resident, non-employee, and being able to sort that out from everything. The last time it was pretty insightful, and kind of, you know, helps with the survey responses, because when you can kind of sort those surveys out, it also gives a very different answer of, you know, what would you like to see in the community, what would you like to basically review. But it's tough because I've noticed that in other surveys, people will answer whatever they need to be able to take the survey if the answer that actually fits them isn't available.
Okay.
I don't know what your guys' experience is with that, but, you know, some of my professional groups, it's been, some of our surveys have been, are you a city manager, a county manager, a village manager? Then we hear somebody who says, you know, I'm a deputy clerk over at a township somewhere, took a survey, oh, well, I just answered that as a city manager. Because I didn't have, you know, that function, it's like,
Okay. Got it.
But believe it or not, a lot of people have a lot to say about the city.
Okay.
And our people are more than willing to give input on our surveys. Our Parks and Rec survey, same thing, is really quite a bit of good responses from community members. I'd say it's probably 2 to 1 community members versus non-community members taking our surveys.
I mean, as long as we can differentiate between, I think I think that's important, personally.
Yeah.
Just to know,
Yeah, I can separate those out.
that would be useful for me.
The outside opinions, I think, would be enlightening, because also to see what would bring them here,
Right, tourism.
other than tourism, like what kind of services are needed
Sure.
That's fair.
to draw more people to actually move here, other than housing.
And then going back to question 8, wanting to pick your brain a little bit on maybe expanding the question for signage, because it's come up in our planning commission meetings the last few months that there seems to be a rift between business owners wanting more signage and a lack of voice from community members about how they feel about the signage that's currently in the city. And last year, when we started to really kind of crack down on our unpermitted signage, being like the feather flag signs and everything like that, we got a pretty heated response from the business community, but got a very positive response from the community members. And I was gonna ask, is there a way that we can kind of build that out of, you know, do you think there is, you know, adequate amount of, you know, this type of signage, and then have like wall signs, which would have like an example of, you know, the Denman's Hardware sign on the side of the building, and then have, you know, the different types of signage that we currently don't regulate, but so we can get somewhat more of a better cross-section of views on business signage, because we've always tried to weigh the business community needs with the quality of life, community perception as well. And that's one of those where they're always gonna be at odds, but we never had good data to really say, hey, you know, the business owners want this, but the community members don't think 15 small H signs on a parcel with 4 feather flags and roof signs and giant signs everywhere on it look good in our community. Is that how we wanna be? I mean, it's the Gatlinburg, Tennessee versus Harbor Springs, Michigan type approach.
Yeah, right. So rather than modify question 8, I'd probably add at least 2 more questions to drill down a little bit more.
Okay.
Where's,
Yeah.
do you think, where is your place of employment located? People that own businesses in Munising, would we be able to sort by that existing question? If they have a business in Munising, their signage answer might pertain to that, or do you think that's not an appropriate mechanism, just to not create like an additional variable? I don't know.
Or you add a question beforehand, you know, are you a business owner in the city
Oh,
of
yeah.
Munising? You just hit a yes or no, and then you can sort your answers there between who's a business owner and then who's not. And
Yeah,
give you a little bit better delineation of the two.
that makes sense. I like that, it's straightforward.
Do we know what the business owners would like to see?
So,
I mean,
I know we've had individuals come to the planning commission, but Lisa, please add to it, but I've heard from some fairly large business owners in town that they're very happy with our, you know, DDA building material requirements now. They're happy with us cleaning up the signage, they're happy with it, but then we get other individuals who want to come in and paint a giant sign on their entire roof, as we did last year, that, you know, or, you know, my 40 or my 68 square foot sign that's right on the highway isn't big enough. It's that, they wanna, yeah, they wanna put additional signage on the roof, so we get it, we get the whole spectrum.
But by and large, it's relatively satisfying to what the DDA's recommending.
Yeah, the DDA really, when we put the ordinance together, the DDA looked at it and they said, yeah, we really like having nice affixed wall signs on facades that are durable materials, that are, you know, consistent with, I don't wanna say a different level of downtown district, but moving away from the vinyl siding and going to hardy board and going to a little bit better trim. They're overly responsive, positive in that regard. It's a lot of the other businesses that are smaller businesses, like when we had Mr. Van Lanschen in here with the fisheries, it was more so, he just wants, you know, to just add more signage. And it's, you know, it's taking into consideration in districts like Brown's Addition, more signage, okay, are you driving more people, and can Brown's Addition infrastructure handle more people? And is that how the few people remaining that are full-time residents of Brown's Addition want to view their neighborhood? I mean, these are all questions for the planning commission to answer, but all things to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, I think like signage, you know, should be conditional based on the type of zone that you're in. I mean, lakefront commercial, obviously you're driving by, larger signs are more effective when viewed from cars, whereas in the downtown district, like, most people are parking and walking, so the signs are cleaner, they're more targeted to pedestrians. I don't know do we have that existing differentiation in signage requirements by zone?
Not by zone, no, just an overall signage.
I think that would be useful. I don't know if anyone else thinks that'd be useful, but for me,
When this was presented last fall, I think one of the things we said was that maybe we need to start looking at this more on an individual basis than a wide open setup on it. And I think I'm still in favor of that.
okay.
Yeah, you can take consideration of it wherever, whether it's lakefront commercial or downtown or whatever. Yeah, I think that would be a better idea.
Do you think then signage above a certain square footage would immediately require like some kind of review, like special review, or is that a possibility?
That's all a possibility. Right now, we have
Yeah.
a very binary signage section in our zoning ordinance, which is, these are permitted and they're permitted at this size and this location.
Right.
If it's not this, then there is no leeway. I mean, basically, all we do is specify the types and the maximums.
Right, yeah, I do think like giving, like, I think there's always the argument that, the needs of different properties are different and therefore should be addressed as such, especially in a town such as this with such varied commercial uses in such a small area. It's like fisheries, industrial, facilities, like hardware stores, like so much stuff just, and they all have different needs for signage. So I mean, I don't know, we obviously don't want to review every sign because that's overkill, but it's like,
Well, our zoning ordinance is many pages long, the signage. I mean, I called you to figure out where it was, and I'm going through and it's like 44 pages.
yeah.
So I mean, it's.
Later on in tonight's agenda, we do have subcommittee signage on the agenda.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we may want to stay on the topic of,
I think we're getting off base here a little bit. And
because we're still on the.
we're still on with Brian with the
Community
survey.
survey.
So I would say, be careful with, evaluating signs on a case-by-case basis, because you can undermine your zoning ordinance by being inconsistent about how you, approve your signs. And I don't have anything else on the survey.
Okay.
So we are, just a quick question, are you a business owner as a question?
Yes, and then I was going to add, a couple extra questions under, drilling down under business signage.
And do you think it would be useful to have a question about what is essentially defunct signage? Like, I know there's some signage that is historic and embedded into like a building's facade, and obviously like, that is kind of a characteristic of the place, even though it's not advertising, a store that is still there. I think differentiating between that and like proactive accounting solutions that's like not there anymore, and it's just there, like, I think maybe, do people have opinions on that, or do we have opinions on that? Do we need opinions on that? I don't know.
I think it's, if it's historic, then it's considered art or, a landmark. So it doesn't need to be counted as a sign.
Okay, so it'd be like more of a mural,
Yeah.
so historic signage equals mural. Okay.
Okay, over to old business. Housing needs assessment discussion, where are we gonna go there?
Just wanted to touch base and see if there had been any updates done on the needs assessment following the work session from last month.
No, we didn't change that at all. I think that was, pretty much complete. Unless you had any further, wishes to change it or anything, any further research that we needed to do. But, last meeting, we were working on taking those recommendations from the housing needs assessment and translating them over to the master plan strategies for housing. And that is what this document is. So I tried to synthesize those notes and put them into a implementation plan table format. And I left blanks on here in case you thought of anything, and this could be homework for the month, where you could fill in a little bit more. So at the top in the black line, there's the goal. And so these first couple goals that I have listed are from the 2020 master plan, and I found spaces within the existing goals to add new objectives. So the new objectives are in the gray background. And then I suggested a few action items that we discussed during the meeting and plugged those in. And I took the liberty of filling out the time frame and responsible parties, but anything can change on here too. So if you want wording changed or responsible parties changed, feel free to change that. Then, starting on page 2, we have new goals that would be inserted into the 2025 master plan. And those are around supporting initiatives to expand access to affordable housing for underserved populations through strategic funding, policy policy implementation and collaborative partnerships. Optimize the use of existing assets to address community needs through strategic identification, activation, and repurposing of underutilized properties. Identifying and pursuing innovative funding strategies to enhance resources and housing and community development initiatives. And improve household energy efficiency and reduce energy waste to lower costs and reduce footprint.
I think goal 7 and goal 9 are a little bit redundant. Maybe we can merge them about just funding. And did we want to investigate the feasibility of a housing bond? I mean, I think it probably wouldn't pass. We can't, I don't know.
So that's something I was gonna bring up, is that I had gone through and made quite a few notes on maybe adding some references to statutory framework that would allow us to do, even perform some of the recommendations. Because there's a few here that sound great, however, I don't know the statutory authority for us to even perform that type of function as a city, as a non-entitled city.
Okay.
If going through it, it was the lack of housing options and promoting a mix of housing types. I also made a note to review our existing combined use tables, because that's already something that we pretty much did. We've allowed pretty much any type of housing, with the exception of upper floor residential dwellings and employee living quarters in our traditional residential districts. And then it was gonna be, there was a page about balancing seasonal housing pressures, about implementing a vacancy tax on seasonal second homes.
Yes.
I don't think there's any regulatory framework that allows a municipality to do
I
that.
wondered about that.
Yeah.
And so,
Because the general property tax law in the state of Michigan allows us to only tax properties, and only to do so by taxable value or assessed value times millage rate, and not pick or choose. The only option outside of that is the PRE and the school operating addition for non-PRE homesteads.
right.
So there's that, and then the creating a housing rehabilitation program offering grants or lowest interest loans. Cities are allowed to extend credit, so we can basically provide loans of city funds to individuals. So, of taxpayer funds, so I can't use general fund revenue and loan it to a homeowner. However, if we were
But
to get,
Marquette County does it with CDBG.
if we were to get dedicated funding sources such as CDBG or MISHDA funds specified for that, and then we're essentially the UGLUG for that grant, we can do that, but we just can't create that using our tax revenue and general fund dollars.
Okay.
But if we funded an affordable housing trust fund specifically with outside funding,
Mhm.
non-tax dollars,
Yeah.
and then we used it as basically a rotating fund where like you get $1,000 low interest loan with a 12-month repayment period. As soon as we get it back, we can lend it out to someone else, basically, kind of thing.
As revolving loan.
Revolving loan, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where point 9 of, finding, new and interesting funding sources for these mechanisms, I think is gonna be, need a lot of emphasis, because a lot of it we can do in some way, shape, or form. How we do it's gonna be the tricky part.
Speaking of which, there's still $1.4 million available in my neighborhood's funding, which is CDBG funds, which is, nobody has applied for it yet. And that's it. Available to apply for.
Is it community only, or would like maybe Action Elder Marquette qualify for it as regional housing? Because I believe I reached out to Michelle LaJoy on that. Because I try not to go for grants that they're going to, because they have the administrative staff and capacity.
I know Community Action applied for my neighborhood funds, but there's two separate pots. There's Housing and Community Development Fund funds, and then there's CDBG funds. And when she applied, she got the Housing and Community Development funds. So I'm not sure if she's able to access those funds. MISTA chooses which pot is most appropriate, and then awards those funds that way. Yeah, I'll have to ask her if she's eligible for it, but I'm not sure if she can apply a second time.
And what are the restrictions on usage and the time limit for that? Just wondering.
I think it's the project has to start within 2 years. It has to be targeted to households of 60% AMI to 120% AMI.
Okay.
And 20% of those households need to be 60% AMI and below.
Okay, so we could technically apply for that and put it in a revolving fund, theoretically, for homeowners to access for repairs, for housing. That'd be awesome, if possible.
And if administration of those CDBG funds is any trouble, then QPAD is willing to step up and help administer them.
Are you guys able to perform like income reviews for applicants? Because that's always been our issue, is that we don't have the basically the protections in place for people's personal financial information. And in the past, we've kicked it over to the Housing Commission, because we do have a fund available to low-income residents for service line replacements. And we have to have them do all of their income reviews and qualification reviews at the Housing Commission, and then the Housing Commission gets a hold of us and says, yes, they qualify for it.
You know, QPAD as an organization hasn't done it. Dottie has done it when she was at Marquette County. Marquette County will share their information with us. I'm also thinking Community Action does that kind of thing, so maybe if we could work out a joint administration deal, then they could handle the income verification and we could handle the reporting and whatnot. We could figure it out.
No, because that's something, if we can figure out a way with Michelle LaJoy is the executive director of Community Action Only Marquette, and they pretty much are one of the best resources for homeowners that's, in my opinion, underutilized in our county and our community. Whether it be a lack of advertising, is that very few people know about the programs, because they have a homeowner emergency repair fund that, people of certain income brackets can get funding, grant funding essentially for roofs, water lines, furnaces, a whole gamut of items. Currently, they have a number of programs that they offer as well, that already cover Alger County and the city of Munising. But if we can work with them on it, I mean, the last thing I wanna do though is compete with them in grant applications, because they have a dedicated housing department inside of their organization for Alger Marquette County. But anything we can do to facilitate that would be great.
What's a better way to disseminate this information to our people?
So we have, like, all of our, because they have utility assistance programs too, so they operate our state of Michigan funded utility assistance. And we have posters here at City Hall and everything. We've been, you know, every couple of months we do, so, no, I would say probably every 6 months we do a social media push about the programs. But I can't get them to do anything, you know, on the social media or anything like that, specifically for Alger County, or even more specifically for the city of Minnesota.
But could we, as the city, do something as I'm thinking of flyer or something that would go out into the water bills or something? What can we do, you know, to get the information to John Doe on Birch Street, you know?
Yep, so it's, with the utility stuff, it's easy, because we can, when people come in or people contact us, we have the ability to essentially give them that information directly. And we have done social media posts with the assistance for utility assistance. And then also, I believe a couple of years ago, we kind of tried to get after the homeowners assistance items, and really it didn't go anywhere. The metrics on our social media, nobody shared them. It's one of those where it's a tough thing. It's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime people ask about it, that's what we give them, is as much information as we need. And I can think of at least one that had no idea about it and talked to us about assistance, and was able to go through the process and get assistance for furnace upgrades and improvements and a number of items at their household just this past week.
Yeah, I was wondering how we can get, you know, more people to see it. You know, instead of, because not everybody comes in here to pay their utility bill. Not everybody comes in here to pay their water bill or, you know, their taxes or whatever, so just wondering if there's other than social media.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have Facebook, I wouldn't have a clue, you know, what's on Facebook, so.
Can we add a question to the survey about, what would you like to see community funding for? Or do you have any financial needs or something like that? Maybe we could kill two birds with one stone here, try to figure out what people need help with financially.
Would you want to put, like, in just brainstorming, put a question, an open-ended question at the end? You know, what would, you know, do you need assistance for improving or obtaining housing, and if so, please detail.
Yeah, do you?
I mean, or even add, you know, an improvement, I mean, basically is, you know, making a residence more livable.
Sure.
I mean, add it, you know, what exactly are the individual's needs for housing? And, you know, you're gonna get once again, a wide gamut of answers, but at least you'll start to get a metric.
I think that's a good idea, to add something that we can at least go, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, there's, you know, so many people that think this is a good idea, so.
Yeah.
we can do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't aware that there's money available. And, you know, I've been around this city for 20 years, I had no clue, so.
Was that ever put into Munising News when they still had that in print, or?
I can't remember, and one of the item is that a lot of the CAM programs are grant funded, like CDBG funded programs, are not consistent long-term dedicated funding, so they come and they go, but like their winter weatherization program is, you know, been a long-term program because they'll provide funding for window improvements and weatherization, which is, you know, an item that's, you know, discussed in the housing needs assessment. There's also the master plan update, but there are, I mean, like I said, weatherization is something that they specifically addressed with, I believe, CDBG or utility funded projects in our community. So, and what I did is about a month and a half ago, I sent an email to the city commission as a whole, kind of outlining the box that we work in for housing. as it's been a discussion. I will forward that email to the planning commission members too. And it has a lot of the links to like the CAM programs, it has, you know, kind of some definitions and also descriptions of the general law property tax and the Home Rule City Act requirements of the city, and I will make a note to send that out tomorrow.
Sounds great.
And an interesting thing, Misha just launched their first generation down payment assistance program too. So I think it's $25,000 for somebody who hasn't owned a home in 3 years, had a property interest in a home in 3 years.
Awesome.
That for lower income as well?
That is, yep.
Okay.
With the changes that have been discussed tonight, do you want the changes to be drafted and returned to you guys for approval? Or are you guys comfortable having, you know, me work with Ryan on, you know, making sure that any changes kind of fit the scope that was discussed and then just kicking it out? Or how do you want us to handle that?
I don't have any problem. I
I'd
don't
rather
even
see
see
us
it.
get it moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
And you guys are comfortable with a 1 month timeframe?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Subcommittee signage regulations. Sit there a little bit already.
Yeah, so this was brought up late last fall about maybe creating a subcommittee to kind of review our signage ordinance and kind of take a look and see if there's a better way for it to be administered in the city. This goes hand in hand with the community survey, especially with it having a few questions kind of angled at, you know, how do you want your business districts to appear to, you know, in your community. They wanted to see if there's actually a motivation to you know, appoint a subcommittee of up to 3 members of the planning commission to work with Lisa and I on this.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I'll volunteer for that if you want volunteers, or are we deciding who wanna do it? Is that, got it?
I frankly don't have time. Another committee meeting.
I just don't sleep, I just run on coffee and adrenaline mainly.
I would like to learn about it and be a part of it. So the more I'm involved, it would be great to be a part of it.
I've got a lot of things going on right now, so
Just gonna really
I'm not gonna get on another
Making
one.
it wrong.
And Patty's not here tonight, so she
Yeah.
sounds like a great candidate as well.
Yeah.
She sounds like the 3rd member.
Yeah, or we can find 2 new planning board members and make them do it,
Yeah.
or
that
convince
works.
them to do it
Mhm.
willingly, because that, yeah, very interesting signage stuff. I'm sure they would want to. But yeah, I definitely think that we should revise the signage portion of the zoning ordinance just to allow more site-specific leeway for property owners to really be able to decide what is best for their business, because if they're getting business, like, it's good for us, and as a community, we want people to buy stuff, do things in town. So, I don't know.
Okay, so far we've got 2 members on there. Would be a start, and I think we can look at with the information that we get off of Ryan's deal there.
Mhm.
City managers report.
Yep, I provided written reports from our last 2 meetings,
Okay,
so.
I'm fine with that.
So pretty much business as normal. We're always a season ahead, so when we're planning for spring, spring we're planning for summer. Really nothing too crazy going on. Infrastructure projects, Anna River Bridge is out to bid right now. That's gonna be a summer of '25 project. Washington Street is our big infrastructure project. That's the next one. With the way funding is right now, that's gonna be a 2026 project. just because we can't close our bonds and get it out to bid prior to this construction year. The current status of federal funding is a very interesting component at this point, since we were able to get $2 million of essentially Port Carroll spending for the road portion, and then we're going through the utility application process. For the utility side of it, we do have the funds obligated. It's 3.7 million in sewer funds and 2.5 million in water funds. Both of that is obligated. That essentially means the funds are sitting there at the USDA. We just have to go through the final steps to go to closing, which at that point they essentially put it into a bank account for us to draw off of. So the WEP funding, we have been told, is going, the utility funding is WEP. The utility funding, we've been told, is going to stay intact. However, the congressionally directed spending / pork barrel funding we received for the road repairs, that's a big question mark, because without that, we have to go back and start the utility process over to wrap the road repair and upgrades cost into the utility side. So we're pretty much running through our checklist with USDA as fast as we can. In fact, we are going to be meeting with them soon to discuss an early closing. Typically, we try to close on the loans the day before we go out to bid on the project. And what that does is essentially kind of hold off on the accounting, and the accounting side of it, because of us, we have our fiscal year ends on June 30th, so if we close before then, we have to account for it this year, even though we have no expenditures. But we're going to discuss the possibility of moving forward and getting to closing without having the project out to bid, just to try to tie everything up. So in the chance that the funding's at risk, we minimize that risk.
Zoning administrator's report. Lisa told me where this is, but I had a question on the address of it, because I'm pretty sure that side of the street is even numbers.
125. That empty lot over.
Yeah, it's the empty lot next to Coldus' old building.
I know what the lot is, but.
Yeah, and that's gonna be an odd number,
It's
or
gonna
maybe
be,
even number.
Should've been even.
It's where 301, yeah. We'll have to check.
okay, that's the only question I have on it. I don't have any other problems with it. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Yep.
Okay. Roundtable discussion.
What I would bring to your guys' attention is the fact that we have 2 open seats now. Wendy resigned and DJ Raker will not, has said that he will not be going for a reappointment. So this week or early next week, we will have our social media pushes, and then it will be in the paper that following Friday. We anticipate having appointments on the March 17th City Commission agenda. So I do know that we have a former long-term planning commission member that may be interested in one of those seats. But if you know of anybody else who may be interested and qualified, please send them our way.
So, I don't know if this is useful. Bob's IGA are there any plans for that, or is that just sitting?
That's just
Can we rezone that to residential? It's directly adjacent to residential, and it's not being used for its current use. I mean, it's underutilized by definition.
Kind of in the downtown though.
yeah.
Yes, but
I don't have a good answer for you on that. That would be a question for our attorney, with an unprompted rezoning for a single parcel, is that gonna be considered spot zoning? If not, what type of justification would we have to put it right in?
right, or how do we? I guess a different question. How do we get that to be activated? Right now, it's just kind of this void in the community that is not used.
Isn't Pat's on there?
Dr. Pat.
Yeah, so Pat, so we can't force anybody to do anything, as you're well aware.
Right.
However, we can try to use our current zoning for retail. I do know that there have been at least 2 proposed projects to the current owners. I don't know where they're at. One of them being a mixed-use project. I do know also that the property has a deed restriction on it as well. which limits its reuse.
Right. I mean,
What is the restriction?
The deed restriction is that it can't be a retail,
Food.
a retail
Food,
establishment that has a list of items that would be in direct conflict with Pat's Burger Shop.
because, yeah, I know they bought it so they could prevent it, I get that, which is,
Horrible.
yes.
So a hardware store could go in there.
I would have to double check, I mean, it's like, because Pat sells, you know, light bulbs and things like that, it's a fairly comprehensive deed restriction.
they're in the hardware business in Calumet.
I would just.
Yeah, I know they are,
I would just
yeah.
love to see that property used, like, I walk by it every day, it's not used, it's this big parking lot, it's technically, it's not blighted, because it's not in disrepair, but it is definitely in underutilized and inactive space in our relatively small downtown that should be used for something. I mean, I feel like we should be strategizing along with other, you know, commissions in our community to find out how we can use that space. Like, for someone to hold that property hostage is really terrible. I mean,
The hard issue is that is a facet in the state of Michigan real estate law. I mean, we can advertise it, we can add it as a priority site in zoning and master plans. I know that Kathy Reynolds at the Chamber has used that site as a, you know, potential business for many people who have contacted her, a lot of referrals, and like I said, at least 2 projects that I've been looped in on. One of them that Pat's put the kibosh on, and then another one that I believe is just kind of stalled out at this point.
are there any rules for, or can we implement, I guess we can't implement a rule, but are there any rules for vacancy in Michigan that say if it is vacant past a certain number of days, it is required to pay a fine? Can we implement that, or is it not
Because the fine
allowed
would be
in
considered a
Michigan?
tax in the state of Michigan.
Michigan's tax law is just not my friend.
And that's, and on the email I'm gonna send you also details our Bolt law, so any fee that we charge has to be commensurate with the service.
Right.
So we have to be able to show that there's an additional cost to the municipality of having that. I mean, it's pretty wide ranging. I mean, if you can say that it, you know, degrades the value of the neighborhood and, you know, there's some wide ranging aspects you can take. A lot of them are legally suspect.
Yeah,
I mean, and I don't know if you've heard of other ways that communities approach that, Ryan, but that's been a sticking point for planning and land use in Michigan for generations. And same thing with the deed restrictions. Contact your representatives.
I yell at our representative weekly, I'm sure they hate me. But yeah,
And same thing with Michigan Dark Store. We're lucky we haven't had it yet, but there's, all the communities around us have. Dollar General, we took all of our local taxing jurisdictions to the cleaner last year. So,
is there a way to, I don't know, I'll think about this on my own and not waste all your time. I'd like to see that property used.
Speaking of properties that seem to be just empty and sitting, what is going on with the old bank that's across from Harley Davidson?
so they're actually using it.
They
They
use
use the
that.
office space in it.
Use the
for
office
BSB.
space in there.
Once
BSB.
again, much like Pat's and
Just be used.
Bob's IGA, People State Bank bought the Huntington Bank when it came up for sale.
There's really only one office in there that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that's just prime.
Ground floor, and I guess ground floor office is permitted there, which, yeah.
And I believe the office that's used there is actually in the basement. So
Oh,
I
really?
believe the lead floor
Dang,
is
that's-
Part of their accounting, so.
And that's wild, because that's a
Well,
key corner of our, like, people see that first, they come into our community, and it's like, why is this
Compliance.
fallout shelter here? It just says, like, the door's like, fallout shelter, it's like, no signs, like, what are people doing in there? The occasional blood drive, that's all I see, but, and then there's the Bacon Building, the big metal one, by the brewery,
Unison News Building,
yes, where,
the former Ben Franklin.
what about that? Can we, I feel like we need to activate these buildings.
So that one's been for sale for the better part of 3 years since it was taken out of use.
I would love to see some kind of use
Yeah.
or something. I
But
mean,
you said it, you just can't force people to do anything.
But I mean, in any other state, someone would have eminent domain to that by now. We can't, but someone else would have. Like, you're not using your site, you're, harming your community by making a giant void. but yay, Michigan. I will shut up now.
No, but you're describing something we all feel, especially on our end, because what you're saying is not the first time we've heard that. In fact, we hear that all of the time. We've had legacy properties that we even have a brownfield redevelopment authority that has 2 properties in it that haven't had any sort of development in almost 20 years.
Right, I mean,
And I have to do hours of reporting every year on them, even though they're vacant.
I feel like we need to do something in our downtown zoning to activate these places, like something, like requiring activity. I mean, like Philadelphia has, I forget what their exact
We're not
ordinance is.
there.
I know, you're
You're
in,
Munis.
but like art or something, just, there's so many case studies for vacant.
If you ever get a chance, I would recommend talking to Kathy Rounds, because you guys have a lot of the same thoughts. Kathy is the brainchild behind the art downtown and has approached many of those underutilized buildings about, hey, can we do this, can we do that? Empty lots, can we put a pop-up park in for the downtown? And there's very little, I would say, positive reception by property owners to those types of proposals.
Or even like, there's so many food trucks in town, like just having some kind of cafeteria style place in there where you rent like a booth, you bring in your food, you cook, there's like 3 picnic tables in the middle and everyone, like, there's so many good uses for those spaces.
Traverse City has that exact same setup, and it's a great little unit right on Front Street.
It is, yeah.
Yep. So,
That's Traverse City.
Yeah.
As far as the roundtable goes, with the moratorium on the short-term rentals and looking at it through the master plan setup and whatever, I think we probably got, what, 4 months left on that moratorium, 5 months, or was it 2 years?
it was 2 years,
Okay.
or until the housing needs assessment was finalized, the master plan update was done, and the zoning ordinance was completed, whichever comes first.
Well, I was thinking that was coming up within a year, so we do have some time on it, but.
And then with the roundtable, the last day of this month, I believe the 30th of this month, we have our Fishbeck consultant who's been doing a lot of our brownfield work. We have talked one of their public outreach individuals into doing a City of Munising, Eldred County specific webinar on the new ability to use brownfield for housing items. As that's a new and potentially explosive tool for housing developments. And I'm going to send the invite to all the planning commission members, the city commission, DDA, and county as well.
I think you sent that out. I have it. First of all, there's only 28 days in February, there's not 30.
No, March.
Oh, March. But yeah, one of
Like I said, I'm
the,
always a season.
He's getting ready to leave
So-
already.
yeah, it's true. One of the seminars or webinars, or whatever was tonight, or was today, I think, the 26th, that was on financing and things like that. So, yeah.
So whenever we get good seminars or anything, I try to have Lisa send them out. If I catch them and Lisa sends them out on her own too. Please let us know if you guys want to do anything. I know we signed Robin up for an event downstate in May, and so we budget for it. If you guys are interested and have the time, please take advantage of our budgeting and everything we have to offer. MSU Extension is an amazing provider of rural-specific zoning programs too. So,
Can we get a list of the seminars? I mean, I think what you sent me was just webinars, wasn't it?
yeah, just.
Can we get?
Yeah, there was a
list of-
webinar series for MPA, had a webinar series, that was the most recent one, but every year, the MSU Extension provides the annual training events for our area, both remote and in person, and I will resend that to you.
Yeah,
I believe we sent it out in
appreciate it.
December to everyone else.
Brief public comment.
There's no public.
Michigan Association of Planning is also hosting a training in Marquette in May, and I think it's May 15th. And they're working with the city of Marquette, and it's gonna be a full day long, planning and zoning training, so, if anyone's interested in that, I'll send the information
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, good.
When is the date of our next meeting? March 19th?
It should be March 26th.
I
Should
am not
be, yeah.
gonna be here, so if we only have,
Oh,
yeah, I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah. We're hoping to appoint on the 17th of week, Friday.
Okay.
For 2 more positions. So, yep, hopefully.
Hopefully we'll have staff.
Make a motion, we adjourn.